rewards and recognition program, I believe, enables us to share timely and frequent acknowledgement of the hard work and achievements of our colleagues. So it goes without saying that, of course, you also got to be serious about your competitive salaries and pay equity and generous benefits. But R&R also has a very critical role to play.
We have been working with Wipro for quite some time, and it's such a huge company, 230,000 odd people across 65 countries. It's like many companies within the same company. There's so many different varieties of learnings which come out. It's going to be exciting then. Sunita, thanks for joining us on the show. I'll give a quick introduction. Actually, it's not going to be quick. It's such a huge list. I need to read it out there. So let me take a minute to just introduce Sunita. The Sunita Rebecca Cherian serves Wipro Limited as a Chief Culture Officer uh, and Senior Vice President Corporate Human Resources. Wipro Limited operates across 65 countries, people in diverse regulatory and labor environments. Sunita's career, close to 3 decades, has spanned sales, human capital strategy, total reward strategy, workforce transformation, mergers and acquisitions, organizational design, sustainability, inclusion, and diversity. Okay, that's a huge list, and such a wide variety of experience, and it's going to be really exciting. Let me just take another not two lines on that. She is currently on the HR board of TAPI Management Institute and was on the board of Bangalore International Center. She's also a member of the World Economic Forum Global Future Council. Under Sunita's guidance, Wipro Limited has been widely recognized for its inclusion framework and sustainability initiatives in the last decade. Thank you, Sunita. Welcome for the
Thank you,
podcast.
Partha. Pleasure being here.
So, yeah, so I think so much has changed in the last few years in this whole work environment which we keep on talking about, right? Uh, there are lots of things which I know you have been doing there. But let me get to a basic question, okay? And there's been a debate which I see. Forget about everything else. Just pay people the salaries. That's it. I mean, today everyone's working for a short duration. Why do we need this employee engagement? Why do we think ourselves as a family and all? Okay, just pay the money, get the job done. Few months, people go out. What's the relevance of employee engagement today? And do you think it's still important?
If at all, Partha, I would go so far as to say that it is a top priority today, more than any other time before, because as you know, it is the degree to which employees are committed, motivated, and satisfied with their work and organization. So, if you really want to keep employees, in it for the long run, then clearly engagement becomes a very top priority for, especially the HR leaders. So I would say that they have to also relook at employee engagement with a blue sky lens now more than ever before.
No, this is very interesting, and sometimes why I ask this question is I find that they're talking about employee engagement with retention. Okay,
Hmm.
if the employees are engaged, they'll be retained in the company. There. Now, I have been telling a lot of people that it's different from 20 years back. So okay, so people are not going to work more than maybe most people 4, 5, 6 years in a company then move out. So I say, and I use it very commonly. I say, you are in love in a relationship, be in that. You can divorce, you can move on from the relationship, right? Things happen, circumstances changes, but as long as you're in the relationship, be in love there. So its engagement is also like that, which I feel people might move out at different points of time because of circumstances, but as long as they are in the relationship, they should be
Stay committed.
engaged. Right?
But it's surprising because I don't think too much has changed, Partha. So if I just take my own example, I'm a campus recruit into Wipro, right? So
Yeah, I
28
know.
years ago
Yeah.
when I joined, believe me, I had the same views that you come here, you work for a few years, and then you move on, and that's what you saw a lot of people do. And well, I just continued all these years. So I think I'm not too sure whether uh, organizations should also accept that employees will move on, if they're able to make it exciting enough for people to build their entire lives here, so be it. But I agree with you, as long as you're here, then how do you ensure that the person gives their best, they're committed, and they're engaged, is where the focus is. You're right.
And it's interesting because I know you joined like almost 3 decades back in Wipro, and at that time I remember IT was such a huge boom.
Yes.
People could just
Yes.
move anywhere in the world, right? I mean, they could decide that I want to go to US today. I work in US tomorrow. You want so and you stayed and you stayed back for so many years. But I think also from a Wipro kind of a company, is the huge scale of Wipro. And when I was reading your introduction, you have worked across different functions, the business functions, HR functions, M&A activities. I think the opportunity is there for you to do something exciting, new all the time there, which might not be the situation with very small
Smaller
companies,
company. Yeah.
but definitely there. And
True.
so okay, so you're saying that not much has changed. I mean, employees' engagement focus was always there. It is much more important now. People have to look at it with a fresh pair of lenses. But let me break it down. Like, what are the factors, broad factors, do you think, which lead to employee engagement? And has anything changed in the, let's say, I would say pre-COVID, post-COVID kind of a time frame? I mean, this factor has become more important now, kind of thing. So how do you see that?
No, good question. So I think, so number one, to me, Partha, would be a larger purpose, you know, and see, people are always seeking a larger purpose to what they do, so that they are motivated every day. Now, I can't think of many companies where 66% of the economic interest of the organization is pledged for philanthropy. Now, that's a very, very strong motivation for a lot of folks, right? Especially, someone like me who joined from campus, just knowing that if I do my best every day, then in some form or shape, I'm contributing to saving so many lives, bettering the communities that we live in, is a huge high. So number one to me would be a larger purpose. Second factor would be the work we do. Like you rightly said, Wipro being a large organization, the fact that I've got the kind of opportunities that I got across different roles is what was challenging. So net, if you're not challenged, if you're not intrigued, if you're not creatively satisfied by the work you do, then you're not going to be engaged. And at Wipro, what thanks to our size, but we also ensure that our employees thrive by encouraging these kind of role rotations. So cross team projects, ample learning opportunities, all of which help in terms of crafting a more interesting work. So today you will find employees who are, say, for example, inclusion champs or culture ambassadors or Wipro Cares volunteers. And all this is over and above their regular roles. These are just areas which they're passionate about, and we want to channelize their passion. And I believe that hugely contributes to building engagement. The third factor I would say is being appreciated, right? So we all thrive, when we feel appreciated and recognized for the good work done. So having a robust rewards and recognition program, I believe, enables us to share timely and frequent acknowledgement of the hard work and achievements of our colleagues. So it goes without saying that, of course, you also got to be serious about your competitive salaries and pay equity and generous benefits, but R&R also has a very critical role to play. uh, and finally, to me, it would be a positive work environment. So given that we spend so many hours at work with our colleagues, we encourage a positive work culture where everyone can bring their whole selves to work. So it is a safe space where you can be vulnerable and authentic, and that's a kind of behavior that we encourage from all. And to enable that, we know that managers are the glue. So our manager training programs are crucial, where we try and ensure that the managers are supportive, they are fair, they're respectful, while motivating their teams to get the best results. So, and more so now with hybrid working, right? We've invested quite a bit on our well-being programs that cover not just physical fitness but also mental health, apart from, of course, the financial wellness and social participation, etc. So, net, we aim to make sure that our employees feel connected. They have ample opportunities for career growth. They feel appreciated. They feel fairly compensated, and they're aligned to the goals of the company. So, if we can do
So
all
I
of this, then that engagement will follow, because obviously
absolutely,
that comes from a positive and
and,
productive
and
work
and you put
environment.
it nicely in this four buckets. Absolutely. No, the four buckets which you have put it is very nicely put up there, and we'll talk about the R&R part on that. But some interesting things. I mean, 66% of philanthropy. I mean,
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I
yeah.
mean, uh,
So it's irrevocably pledged to the trust, and so everybody knows that, if I do well, the more profits that the organization makes, it's going for a better cause. It's going to make the world a better place to live in. So even if I'm personally not being able to do something, I know that indirectly my efforts are going in for a good cause.
this is huge because see, I have always been trying to figure out and debate with people that you are a house cleaning service. In the US, you have those house cleaning services. I said, like, what purpose would you have? Right? But think about it. I mean, it's like, yes, maybe that company gives away to some local charities. Okay, maybe they're the homeless or something like that. You can always create the purpose, not by the direct line of work, but through whatever other things.
Yeah, in fact, Partha, is interesting. See, this is the purpose, which is a larger one that the organization has channelized into. But I believe that, every individual can also find their own purpose. So, for example, just in the work you do, what's the larger purpose in the work you do today? Like, for example, somebody was telling me, just the fact that I'm coding this part is going to actually send a rocket into space, for example, for something. So I think just knowing that larger picture, I think, helps quite a bit.
And it's so now you're triggering many thoughts in me in terms of at different stages there are different things how you impact. You're saying this small piece of code. I remember in 2001 I was working with the Nokia GPRS thing, okay, and Edge 3G Edge, all those networks were there, right? So there were some bugs or something was happening, it was not working, and then I said, like, okay, we fixed up something over the weekend working there, and like we were so proud that we were the ones who were able to get this call through in a real network. So
Yeah,
exciting. I used to keep on telling this to so many people. Today, I mean, it's a different stage of life also. So we, as you know, we have set up the company mostly in Assam, right? Everything is done from Assam there. So while we are doing an R&R solution, we also see a bigger purpose there. Can we be the
absolutely.
Wipros of Northeast? Okay, just
Yeah,
like Wipro was for Bangalore and Karnataka, and then of course India and globally. But at least it started off making an impact locally. Can we have a local impact there? Can we spawn a little bit of few other companies, tech companies there? So definitely, I think the purpose is important. I'm just moving on to the next one. Uh, and I think it is connected. And I'll come into the R&R part, the appreciations part. But I know you have a very interesting framework, the 5 habits, which you want. I'd love to know a little bit more. And why I ask you this is the recent report of Gartner. I saw that culture is one of the top 3 priorities of senior HR leaders, and you alluded to that in the very beginning. You're saying it's more important now.
yeah.
I am sure it is not just this year. Every year, culture must be in the top priorities for HR there, right? And in that framework is what I understood. You created this 5 habits, concept, or I would say, let me put it as a framework kind of thing. Do you want to just quickly walk us through that? Interesting.
No, I'd love to. So Partha, most companies have fancy stuff written on their walls, which talks about the values, and honestly, I don't know how much people relate to it, right? So at Wipro too, we've had our values, which has been our beacon. It's been our guiding light for the past 50 plus years. But I think what we realized is that how we want people to come across with each other, you know is is very simple in terms of the way they behave, the way they interact, right? Now, people don't experience your values, but they actually experience your behaviors. And which is
Right.
why we try to break it down by saying the five habits is nothing but our values in action, right? So simplistically put, and if you see the five habits, it's, people might say, but this is so basic, and we say, yeah, but it's really hard to live that basic stuff every day, 365 days, right? So
True.
things like
True.
being respectful, being responsive, always communicating, demonstrating stewardship, building trust. Simple habits, if they become the way of everybody behaving with each other, then I think that's what really distinguishes the Wipro culture. And that's what we're trying to create here, Partha, with Rishad himself spearheading it. I think we've come a long way in terms of um, just the common ways of working with one another, creating that positive work atmosphere, creating a safe space. Because today I know that one change starts with me, and I also know that if I see something wrong, I can speak up, and it is a safe space where it will not be held against me. So the ability to be authentic, the ability to be vulnerable, and that's the kind of behavior that you see right from the top is what has really shaped the culture today. And more so, I would say, in today's working after the pandemic, it's become very critical because not everybody is working from offices all the time, right? So in this sphere of, when we were remote completely, I think this was a huge, I would say, boom, because it kind of gave us a common language, especially when there were so many people who were new to the company. There was a common language that got established in terms of what you can expect and how you kind of come across with one another.
And a very interesting thing, because it might look very simple, the behaviors, right? It might look very simple, and like people who do it, they say, I do it all the time, right? But we'll be surprised by how many people actually don't realize that being respectful of others, how by coming to the meeting on time is being respectful, is a
Absolutely.
way of doing that, right? Uh, and and you're also right, particularly articulating those, okay, when people are not in the physical location. Sometimes when you're there, there's a learning by osmosis, right? You just
Exactly.
see Sunita there, you see Sumit there, and you learn. But here you're all remotely working, and that has to be articulated well so that it's communicated.
True.
Now, as in, that's very interesting. I'll have a couple of other questions on this thing. How do you drive these behaviors? I mean, one is, I'm pretty sure you communicate a lot, okay, about this through leadership, through your side, the managers. Any other systems through which you promote this or drive this?
So clearly, it starts from the top, Partha, so which is why we got all our leaders first completely aligned to what we were saying. Because the last thing you wanted was somebody to look up and say, "Hey, but my manager doesn't behave in this fashion," right? So we started right from the top before we kind of percolated this to the whole organization. Two is, I think, every small way in which we can reinforce it. So for example, I know of enough and more stories in the account teams where people reinforce the five habits through their own stories, right? Stories in those accounts which become folklore, and that's what kind of is used even when you onboard somebody into that account. Or three, in terms of just your practices and policies. So for example, even if I have a appraisal discussion, we say that the appraisal discussion is not just about how you did the work in that particular project, but it's also about how did you display the five habits while doing that. And the beauty is that this is not something that just the manager can give feedback to the reportee. This is a place where the reportee also gives feedback to the manager in terms of how
Right.
did she or he, as my manager, live the five habits, right? So I think we and of course, in terms of R&R, and Partha, you're aware of that, like including in our recognition platform, we said it's not just about great work done or it's a pleasure having you in my team, but it's also about getting a little more granular to say, hey, I appreciated this behavior of yours, right? So the five
Right.
habits also something that is up there in center, where I would say more than 35% of the recognition actually is in this space, right? So
Right, right.
which goes to say that the uptake and people understanding it, and living it gets reinforced.
Totally agree on that. And why I asked you this question was, I mean, how do you drive it? So we have been saying, at least for the last 1.5 years to 2 years, we say you have your business goals, then you have your values and behaviors which you want to drive to reach those business goals, right? And how do you drive it? You're right. A few years back, it was the posters and in the meeting rooms, in the hallways, which you do. But what other systems do you have to promote this? Okay. And that is where the R&R comes in play. You have your channels, you have the communication, very important, leadership, managers, everyone showing this up in the appraisal time, it's happening. But how do you keep on reinforcing this? People like to, as you said in your accounts team, it becomes a folklore, right? And then how do you continuously keep on reinforcing that behavior? And I think that's where R&R systems can help. Is it helping now? I don't think so, because R&R systems are still taken by a large number of organizations as purely administrative efficiency. Okay, meaning that instead of giving those Excel sheets and budgets and all those things, now you have a system, you can give those budgets, it becomes easier. Very few companies, and honestly, I'm speaking about it, we work with about 200 odd companies, right? Very few companies are actually taking this as something which can be of strategic value, okay, which can drive certain cultural behavior thing there. So, and I think Wipro is one such place. I just I want you to elaborate if how do you see this RNR? You just alluded to it, but how do you see the RNR system, particularly the winner circle which you have in your company, in driving these 5 habits? What do you do around that? It'll be good to know.
No, so like I said, I think the R&R is clearly an important part of any organization's toolkit, right? So, and there is a direct relationship, I would say, between employee engagement and a system of rewards and recognition. So, because clearly, when employees feel appreciated, they're more likely to continue performing at high levels of efficiency. And obviously, this leads to a higher satisfaction level and better retention. So, I think the chain is established, that it is a strong tool in driving organizational values and culture and promoting that sense of continuity community. And like you rightly said, Partha, at Wipro, we've done a lot to build that strong correlation between the two, right? And the fact that we have integrated the 5 habits into the winner circle is our way of trying to infuse the organization with a culture of positive rewards and recognition. So while you're encouraging the general aspect of appreciation and rewards, parallelly, we're also reinforcing our organization values, right? By rewarding the good work, the right behavior. So, I think we've seen that strategic fit between the two, and that's what we continue to double down upon, because we believe that this it's also a social recognition. The good part of inner circle is you've built it like a social media platform, so it's not
Right.
something which is hush hush. The world gets to see. I'm proudly flaunting it, on my dashboards. So I think it's a win-win for both. And we clearly don't want to make it just how much of um, money did you gain. I
Monetary.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's not just the monetary part, Partha. So I think
Right.
we lay a lot of emphasis on the non-monetary as well. And again, we don't want to let 5 habits only reside in the non-monetary part. So we're saying, it can straddle between the two, just like anything else. So I think
Right.
it's a beautiful combination that we have, which is working well, because we at least, the fact that we've implemented it for over 2 years now, there's enough and more data to see how the graph has been moving, month after month.
And totally aligned on this. I think it has been a fault of the vendors like ours also, that the focus was too much on the rewards part of it.
Point,
Left to
yeah.
me, I would actually be saying the first R is the small R and the second R is the bigger rewards, and
Exactly.
recognition kind of thing. And we believe there was a reason. I mean, the market changes and all those things, which is there. Uh, we, from a business point of view, forget about very altruistically, but even from a business point of view, recognition is where it creates the stickiness onto the platform. Rewards to
True.
anyone can give. You can just move on platform from one to the other. That happens very easily. The focus is on recognition, and you'll see this flaunting part is a human need. Okay, everyone, to whatever extent. Some people need it more, some people need it less, but wants to. And I think LinkedIn is showing us, all our social media is showing us that we want to flaunt. LinkedIn, professional network, but there also, what do you see? Top voice. There, someone is contributing something, and everyone wants to flaunt that part, and that's the direction which we are trying to move. Uh, just a couple of other questions on that. Now, RNR systems have also evolved over the years, but there's still a lot to be achieved there. From your point of view, what would you want to actually see in our platform, and or how do you even see it evolving over the next, say, few years, 4 5 years? Any thoughts on that?
So I think, like you rightly called out, how do you make the second R a lot more amplified? I think that's important, right? And also, I think the second one I would say, Partha, is how do you integrate recognition into your existing productivity or work tools? Because
Yes.
today it's yet another task in the long list that managers have, and what we are trying to do is make it seamless, right? So make it like part of my regular steps that I would do. So I would say blending it into tools that are already in use, wherein it comes very naturally to someone to say, hey, good work done, and I can straight away go here and click. To me, if we can make that connection or make that as seamless in terms of my everyday productivity tools, that would help.
Totally agree. I think that the focus is also doing it in the flow of the work, right? So
Exactly.
whatever you are doing, whatever mediums you're using, and I think the ecosystem is getting into place now. So Microsoft Teams, we have been working with you on the Microsoft Teams integration. Also, we feel that Microsoft Teams will become the default intranet kind of a thing for people to start their day with. If everything can happen through that, co-pilots and other things which they are developing, not just they, other players are also developing there. I
No,
think this can
and
help.
it's good that you've got into being a part of their chain, because it just helps
Yes,
us. So it's the plug
correct.
and play is easily established. So it's good that players like you have realized that, and you're plugging it in.
I think I think that the ecosystem is now, as I said, like, the first or maybe 1 2 generations of RNR has happened, and I think this part is where all this flow of the work, program management, not just tool. I mean, I give you the tool, you do it. I don't think that will solve your purpose. Okay, you need the best practices. You need the whole program management for that. That is becoming more and more important. Is what I feel. Another thing where we see it evolving also is actually this data can be pretty useful in the whole performance management kind of a thing. Okay, as one more data point. Okay, I'm not saying it's the only data point. One more data point. It'll take
Yeah.
time because it'll take time. Because there are different systems there. But the evolution is happening where this data, whatever is being generated on the RNR platform, is important and
True.
can be used for rest of the other things.
Yeah.
So you are like evaluating Partha. He's a manager there, and then like you think he's not a good, let's say, a team player, but he seems to be getting a lot of team player awards. People will game it, but that's still, you're getting some information out of that. So we see that evolution happening there. Right. So I think just a last question on this. I know you have already said about this being management focus, and I can see it in your focus also. But over the other companies, okay, what we have seen in the industry, this is, how do you think this whole culture angle, employee engagement, do you think it will become a, a CXO priority? Okay. Do the CXOs will ever look into this thing, or some mid-level HR manager only will keep on looking at it? You see this evolution happening. We haven't seen it, by the way, but do you feel that?
No, I think if organizations realize the power of R&R, Partha, it is surprising if it's not already a CXO priority. So clearly for us, um, we're driving it right from the very top. So what I've got is I've also got Yo Debecca, who's our a CEO reporting, who's
Mhm.
actually the sponsor for R&R. Now, that goes to show because he's out there as an he's part of our executive board, and he's my sponsor when it comes to the R&R process, right? So, so I think there is value, and if organizations have not already capitalized on it and just look at it as a point system or as a mundane, what gift could I give, if they've relegated it to that, then there's only so much you will get out of it. But I think we've seen the power of it by integrating it in all our aspects of culture and engagement, and I think that's what really makes it a CXO priority, I would say.
Right.
So I can only talk for Wipro. It's
Yes.
it's it's already part of our CXO priority, Partha. So
And that's why we love working with Wipro. So it's so much sponsorship and so many ideas we get from your side of things. Thank you, Sunita. Thank you for your time.